Well, it is another Terminello take. I can't believe this is take 5, Lou Terminello.
Alex Garrett, good to be with you.
So, where do we start? I think the obvious thing is actually, we've said it before, you've worked with the Nets before, your former employer, because as a sports executive and as an executive with the Nets, I mean, seeing what's happening with this team must be a bit heartbreaking for you, knowing that you've been involved with this organization at one time.
Yes, actually, it's been a while. It's been I left there at the end of 2008, December of 2008. But I still have some friends there, and the Nets are always near and dear to me. And I hate to see what's happening to them, but a lot of it was predictable, and a lot of it is really convoluted, and it's. I don't know where it's going to end up, Alex. I wish I can give you some kind of clarity how it's going to look like in a couple of weeks, in a couple of days, in a couple of months. Obviously, the first casualty after Saturday night with Kyrie and the ESPN reporter going at it post game is Steve Nash. I did not think Nash was a great bench coach. I really thought at the end of last season, when they were swept by Boston, they would relieve him of his duties, but they didn't. And then they went through the off season, as you know, trade demands, and Kyrie opted in, which I really didn't think he was going to, and really for the benefit of the Nets, it would have been better if he opted out. So that hurt them. But, looking where they are now, it's really a difficult situation. They fired Nash, or he was let go by mutual decision. Kyrie hasn't apologized for what was said on Saturday night, and he went at it with the reporter, and the reporter pounded him. And again, I always love in those post-game press conferences to talk about the game, but Kyrie could have said, "Hey, I made a mistake," and he didn't. And he's stubborn, and he's a great basketball player. But the Nets knew that what they were getting, and I guess to get a great player like Durant, and they knew they wouldn't have to take Kyrie with his warts, and he's had them. It's worth the risk. And 2 years ago, if Kyrie doesn't twist his ankle, and if Harden doesn't have his hamstring injury, the Nets win the NBA championship. Even Reggie Miller last night, who was eloquent in being critical of Kyrie, said if that didn't happen, they were going to beat Atlanta in the conference finals. They had waxed Milwaukee in that series, and then lost in Game 7 in overtime. They would have beaten Phoenix in the finals. So they would have gotten what they wanted out of it. But
Lou, you're right. I mean, look, I was at that game where they literally had 100 points, 125, and Kyrie actually scored the 100th point. Then they go into Milwaukee, and him being stepped on changed the series entirely, as did the disappearance of Joe Harris.
Right, Joe Harris had a terrible postseason, but I still think that they would have been able to win that year, and then hey, everything would be okay. We took the risk, and we got the reward. Well, now again, unfortunately, injuries happen. They didn't get the reward, and the risk was still there. And the Kyrie situation is out of control, and the best thing would be, obviously, I don't know what they can do now during the middle of the year, cap-wise, if they cut him, if they trade him. I don't know the ramifications of that, because the NBA cap is so sophisticated and convoluted. So we'll see. But then, after they fire Marks, head coach Udoka seems to be the leading candidate, who is being suspended for the year from the Boston Celtics for all kinds of sexual harassment and other improprieties. I know that he's a good coach. Obviously, he turned the Celtics around the second half of the season. They weren't very good in the first half last year, and then went on an amazing run and came within 2 games of winning the NBA championship. I don't know if, having him as the coach is going to wash away all of the stains that are on this net situation.
Well, there are a lot, and I was talking to my dad about this, and he said, well, they probably fired Nash now with about 75 games left to at least maybe try and rectify the ship early in November. I mean, this is the earliest I can remember a coach being fired, and this goes, in my memory, goes back to when Kiki Vandeweghe led an 0-19 team, and he wasn't really, was he fired during that stretch? I don't think so. I think he was on the bench for that record-setting loss.
Well, you're partially right. They started 0-18, but Lawrence Frank was the coach. He was fired in Los Angeles. The late Tom Maurice, who was the assistant coach, coached after that, and then Kiki took over, and that was just a mess. That was just a mess of ineptitude. The players, there just wasn't enough players. This is a mess that is just of a different caliber. I mean, Kyrie is a tremendous basketball player. Bob Cousy, he's 92 years old, and called him one of the top 5 point guards of all time. But again, his talent is just blunted by all of his idiosyncrasies, his just weirdness. It really, it's a shame because he's a fantastic guard.
I mean, did you see this coming aside from the Kyrie? If he didn't tweet this anti-Semitic situation, a tweet and whatnot, and if he wasn't Kyrie, uncontrollable, right? Was he out anyway, Steve Nash? I mean, 2-5 record aside, that's just awful.
Yes. Oh, I think he might have been out. I had told some of my friends that if the Nets get off to 9-11 start, even 11-9, something like that after 20 games, I think he'll be out. I did not think that he would be here for the season. Like I said, Hall of Fame player. I never saw him I never saw him win one game for the Nets. Coaches do win games. I know the NBA is different right now. The NBA is a players' league. The Nets gave up the keys to the kingdom when they signed Durant and Irving. Again, I don't know if they, you always hear, well, they fired Kenny Atkinson. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Kenny Atkinson really wanted to coach them or even wanted to be a head coach. It's easy to be the assistant coach on a team like the Golden State Warriors than to be a head coach in the modern NBA. He had a 4-year deal that he agreed to with the Charlotte Hornets last year and then decided to go back to Golden State. I don't know what happened there, but there's only so many jobs in the NBA, only 30, and it's hard to turn one down. Plus the fact that the Charlotte Hornets have a pretty decent nucleus. It wasn't like he was going to a team that won 15, 16 games last year.
Well, I'm not sure where they go from here. I know that, they had some sign of hope last night, but then the Bulls pulled away, right? And so I don't...
Yeah, they actually showed, you're right, they actually showed some signs of life, camaraderie, chemistry for the first 3 quarters. And then Zach LaVine just went crazy. And the Bulls, who aren't a good fourth quarter offensive team, outscored them, I believe it was 31-17 in the fourth quarter. So, again, the Nets have a lot of problems. They're not going to get resolved right away. Besides the chemistry problem, the coach's problem, who's running the show problem, they are too small. They don't have a rim protector. They had one in Jared Allen, a young rim protector that came up through the Net system. They drafted him brilliantly by Sean Marks, who went from a brilliant general manager to now has to try to clean up this mess. And he's going to hurt his he has already hurt his reputation. So, but the James Harden trade, and I know James Harden played great when they got him, but I don't know if he was really needed. They gave up a lot. They gave up Karis LeVert. They gave up Jared Allen, who just signed a long-term contract with the Cavaliers. He was an all-star last year. He was a rim protector. I mean, he was a great shot blocker. And the kid just wanted to play basketball. No drama with Jared Allen. No drama with Karis LeVert. I don't think they needed Harden. Harden, to his credit, played great for the Nets. But he was out of
healthy
shape.
when he was healthy.
Yeah, but he was still a little bit out of shape because he wanted to get out of Houston. And then he pulled his hamstring in the first minute of the Milwaukee series. So, I have no definitive answers to what's going to happen, but I am shocked that the first name to come up after Nash was let go was Coach Udoka,
who just got suspended.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and he just got suspended, I believe.
That he can yell at Kyrie and Durant and anybody, and he gets their ear. But this is an issue. It's an NBA issue. Look what's happening in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
LeBron James is. I mean, they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They're 1-5. Last year they were terrible. I don't know. It's really perplexing.
And they've had their share of personnel issues, coaching wise, haven't they? Now, I've got to ask you this though, because
Vogel wins a championship in the bubble, and now he's gone.
And that's something. Now, what about this idea? Like, we all covet the closed door meeting drama. Like, what was behind the closed door meeting? And then sometimes it just doesn't work out. You can have as many closed door meetings as possible, but this one did not work at all.
Well, I think there was a couple of. I don't know if there would have been a closed door meeting. I don't think they knew that Nash was being fired. The closed door meeting actually did work a little bit on Monday night, because on Saturday night was an embarrassing performance by the Nets. They were disinterested. Nobody was picking up their man. There was one thing that when I was watching, Kyrie, I believe it was Kyrie's man, was left open in the corner in front of the Nets bench for a three, wide open, and he made it. And Durant looked at Coach Nash like, what's going on here? So Saturday night was pathetic. So I understand why they had a closed-door meeting. I have no idea what went on in that closed-door meeting. But on Monday night, they did come out. They got off to a 24-point lead. Indiana did come back, but then that did prevail. Last night, they actually played pretty well for three quarters, and then they fell apart. I don't know if this team's roster is good enough. I really don't. Now, the good thing is, Kyrie has whatever's going to happen to Kyrie, if he's going to be suspended, if he's going to be traded, which I don't think so. This is the last year that Kyrie owns any opt-outs in his contract. The Nets aren't going to re-sign him. That's for sure. So we'll see what they're going to do. Are they going to trade Durant? I don't think so. First of all, Durant is still playing at a very high level, as is Kyrie, but Durant just wants to play basketball. And I don't think that they tried to trade him in the offseason, and there really wasn't the package that they wanted. And I agree with the Nets. You don't want to just give it away, a talent like that. So we'll see.
Well, you know what's funny when
Reggie Miller, like I said, was succinct in his criticism of Kyrie. I thought that the gentleman on the TNT pregame show, Shaq, Kenny Smith, and Barkley, all accurate in their criticism. Shaq is really measured when he speaks. Barkley sometimes not, but they were all on point. And again, Alex, I have no idea where this is going to end up.
Well, it's funny when you just said to me, well, the good news is, and I'm like, you're going to say the Knicks are doing just as bad, aren't you? Because the Knicks have had some rough losses here, and it's just been very, very disappointing in a sense. Has it not?
You mean as far as they're 3-3? What are they, 3-3?
Yeah, but they've had some tough losses.
Say,
I mean, they should have beat Cleveland the other night, and they let Cleveland pull away from them. I did catch that a bit on Sunday.
Apparently, they played well for 3 quarters, and then Cleveland pulled away in the 4th quarter. Then the Knicks right now are not as good as Cleveland, and they're definitely not as good as Milwaukee. So the Knicks are going to win. I'm going to guess, unless they make a trade with this roster, they're going to win anywhere between 39 and 44 games.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, look, the Thibodeau experiment's going to have a couple more years here, but I think this is the key year for them, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I would say it is. It's a key year, and we'll see. I mean, these young guys can't be called young guys anymore. They got to get to the next level of.
It's like third year for Obi, I think, if I'm not mistaken already.
Pardon me?
It's like the third year for Obi Toppin already. I mean, he's not a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. I mean, it's time to get going. And Brunson. I mean, they overpaid for Brunson, but Brunson's an improvement. But he's not Damian Lillard. He's not Kyrie Irving talent-wise. So the only thing is you're not going to get any drama with Brunson as far as anything controversial. And his father's also an assistant coach on the Knicks, so, that helps.
It's funny to me, right? We've seen now, we went through October with the Mets having a certain kind of stage with their wild card series, the Yankees having a stage, and then, of course, they're off the stage now, and the Giants and Jets, let's just say it, and I know you're going to say, well, the Giants played okay. I considered Sunday a dud for a 6-1 start. I know it's good that they're going to their bye week and into November 6-2. That's an improvement. But they could have pulled out something different in Seattle. It didn't sit right with me that they lost the way they did. And the Jets, I don't know. I mean, their questions are about Zach Wilson, but we talk about it week after week. You got to give them more time here.
Well, unfortunately, we'll talk about the Giants first. That was a great opportunity for the Giants to win. Seattle is okay. I mean, they're okay, but they're on the road in a very difficult place to win. That stadium is crazy, and they love their Seahawks. The Giants just didn't do anything offensively. They just didn't. They didn't sustain drives. Let's face it. If they don't recover the fumble at the 2-yard line, they may not have scored a touchdown. The Giants' touchdown was a 2-yard drive. Seattle, they're okay. I mean, I am surprised that Geno Smith has played so well for them. He throws a beautiful ball, and he's worked hard. He's in his 10th year. I got to give the guy a lot of credit. He's worked hard. He never got down on himself. And there's a chance that Seattle might make the NFC playoffs. That will be a tremendous feather in Pete Carroll's cap. One of his best coaching jobs.
Well, yeah, for losing Russell, right? Losing Russ and having to recoup with Geno, who, of course, we saw here. And, of course, the media was not a fan of him. The Jet fans were not a fan of him. But now he's in a different environment, and it seems to have been helping him. Now, while we stay in football, I want to get to the Jets also. But after the Jets, let's talk about Snyder, because he really might be out of Washington once and for all. I want to get your take on that after you break down the Jets weekend.
Right. Now, the Jet game Sunday was very winnable, and I was disappointed that they didn't win. The Jets have a good roster. It's not a Super Bowl roster, but they've done a good job in a short period of time of upgrading the talent level. They have good wide receivers. They have a good defensive front, and their defense has gotten better since the beginning of the year, which is only 7-8 weeks ago. I was disappointed in the second half of Wilson. He still looks like he's not ready to be a number one quarterback. I mean, that throw in the first half, that 54-yard throw, was beautiful. There's just not enough of it, and I think he leaves the pocket too early. And I would have pulled him in the third quarter just to settle down. You know, as they say, he's always playing with his hair on fire, and just to settle down. And I was surprised when I saw at 12 o'clock when I got the scratches. I saw that Joe Flacco wasn't active because I would have preferred to have Joe Flacco in there to try to win the game. I know he's not going to be your quarterback, and I don't mean to start the game. You have to start Wilson, but I mean when Wilson had the happy feet in the second half and threw those two terrible interceptions. One of them when he was trying to throw away, and I knew he was trying to throw it away, and it was intercepted right at the sideline. But Mike White is now looks like the permanent second string quarterback, which is going to be tougher for Wilson because the fans are going to say, "Put Mike White in. Put Mike White in."
They said that over Flacco. How about that, right? So
right,
hey,
yep. Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong there. And by the way,
if they had Flacco in the second half the other day, you pull the kid out. Even if you pull the kid out just for the rest of the game, you can't name Flacco your starting quarterback. But just to calm down, that was a winnable game. Plus the fact, I don't want to say anything that controversial, but those were two horrible calls in the first half on the Jets. On C.J. Mosley, it was 4th and 1 from their own 19, and they called him for a late hit when Jones ran out of the pocket. That wasn't a late hit. And even on that that so-called roughing the passer, they were saying that John Franklin Myers launched and hit him. He didn't hit him in the head, pushed him in the back. This kid's 6'4". He's a big guy. He threw the pass. The penalty had nothing to do with the pass interception that would have put the Jets up 17-3. I know people are going to disagree with me, and I'm not making a definitive statement on this, but maybe we have to look at a booth review, not its coach's challenge, a booth review for roughing the passer, because that was not roughing the passer.
Right, and I told you this before.
Troy Aikman said a couple of weeks ago because it got him in trouble, but Troy Aikman is right.
we're gonna watch him do the roughing the runner. That's the next one you see, right? So
that's basically what happened with Mac Jones the other day.
It's gonna be a roughing the runner because they're just going and clamping down unnecessarily. Even the Mariners got a flag on Sunday. How about that? Hey,
that was great.
How about, but Lou, I hear you're
on the Mariner bench for coming out of the restricted area.
Lou, I hear you're so disappointed. You're wearing a Josh Allen shirt because you're excited to see what the Bills are doing right now.
Well, that's the other thing. To win and go to 6-2. You can absorb a loss to what is clearly the best team in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills. And I was watching postgame on Sunday night after the Bills had really no trouble beating the Packers, but they were up 24-7 in the second quarter, and then I think Allen threw an interception near the goal line, and I didn't watch the fourth quarter. But I saw the post-game press conference the next morning and how upset Josh Allen was. So they won easily. They were never really threatened. It was 27-10, and then before they made it 27-17. They did just enough things that they have to correct, or as they say in football, clean things up to make it really hard for the Jets this week. The Jets are 12.5-point underdogs at home. That shows you the discrepancy between the two rosters, and Sunday will not be a pretty day for the Jets. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
As Vince Lombardi would say about the Packers, what the hell is going on out there, though? Seriously.
Exactly right. I heard you in the background.
I mean, seriously, what is going on with that team? Is Aaron Rodgers, is his Zen mode not working for him? Is his new haircut not working for him? Like, what is going on?
Well, I'm not going to put the blame on Aaron Rodgers. They have no playmakers. They have none, and I cannot believe. And this year we had more trades at the trade deadline yesterday than probably in the last half dozen, maybe 10 years. There's usually not a lot of action at the NFL trade deadline. And they did not pick up a wide receiver. They didn't do anything. They did nothing to help Aaron Rodgers. Let's face it, he's your best player. They never replaced Devontae Adams. They have no playmakers.
It is.
You can have the greatest quarterback, and he'll cover up some of the inequities on the team, but he needs help. And they have no. Plus the fact their defense, which was supposed to be top notch, is not top notch.
No, and by the way,
right now in the NFL, these are the teams.
Break it down for me, Lou.
Buffalo is number 1. I'm going to still put Kansas City number 2. The Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Obviously, they're 7-0. But remember, the Arizona Cardinals are 7-0 also. So take it with a grain of salt. I think the Eagles are very good, and they upgraded their team, getting Quinn from Chicago to help on their line, on their defensive line. But there's one team that I think can also enter those top 3, the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, getting Christian McCaffrey was an incredible stroke of genius for the 49ers. He threw a touchdown pass Sunday. He ran for one he caught. He made a great catch for one. He's a great player. He's the best all-around running back in the NFL. The guy gets hurt a lot, like a lot of these running backs do. But they've had a lot of injuries to their defensive line. If they can just get a little healthy and continue to incorporate guys like McCaffrey into the offense, which they already have, and continue to get more familiarity, more chemistry, I think they can elevate into there could be 4 outstanding teams in pro football. But besides that...
Oh, and what about the Vikings? Aren't they having an incredible year also?
Yeah, well, the Vikings are 6-1. I'm not afraid of them. The Bills would kill them. The Chiefs would win easily. I assume the Eagles would be favored. Yeah, they've been okay. I mean, I think obviously they're going to win the division. Let's face it, you're in a division with the Green Bay Packers having an off year, the pathetic Detroit Lions, and the bad Chicago Bears. Vikings, unless they have a total collapse or unless Kirk Cousins gets hurt, they're winning the division.
I hate to sound cliche here, but they and the Eagles will be dancing on their own in their divisions as far as I could see right now. No, I don't think the Giants could catch the Eagles. I really, and I'm a Giant fan, as you know, but I don't think they could catch the Eagles. The Eagles, just Jalen Hurts seems to be the real deal, and that team is like annihilating everybody every week, are they not?
They are. And the thing about Jalen Hurts, and I know we give too much attention and credit and too much attention and blame to the quarterback position. But Jalen Hurts is in his 3rd year, and I know he didn't play a lot his first year. He's improved his throwing 100%. Plus the fact they have great receivers. They got a good offensive line. They got a defense that is scary. I can't see the Eagles not winning the division.
All right, let's go from the Lombardi Trophy to the Heisman. I mean, this is kind of where the crux of my show I wanted to be today because, as you might have seen, I got a picture with the Heisman, which is right downstairs from your former office.
Yes, right downstairs in the building where we used to work. And we used to work there. I used to work there.
Right, and so I went there and I said, "Can I get a picture?" They're like, "Sure." So I rolled in and next to the Heisman, and I got my photo op. And then they gave me this journal. It was actually the Heisman journal they give out every awards dinner. And I started looking at this. I said, wait a minute. What we, the fans, are looking at is who's going to be the one, what are the odds, the Heisman watch. But behind the scenes, do you know they've donated $20+ million up to date, I believe. I mean, this is a few years going now to different charities, and they've helped many people's lives, even female sports lives, and they have a high school scholarship, too, a Heisman high school scholarship. Did you know any of that, Lou?
You want to know something? I really didn't. And the thing is, I am surprised it hasn't gotten that over the years, hasn't gotten more notoriety. I mean, that is really it's not just one or two foundations or scholarships. It's a lot.
It's the Heisman Trophy Trust.
That is quite commendable of the Heisman, the Downtown Athletic Club, and the Heisman Trophy Committee.
And it's amazing. The DAC actually folded in 2002, and who came up and threw it? Well, they created the Heisman Trophy Trust out of that collapse. And so, actually the president of NBC for New York, Frank Comerford, his brother Michael, is the president of the Heisman Trophy Fund. I mean, the connections that I found just looking through this little journal, and the humanitarians, if you checked them out, Lou, are baseball guys and NASCAR guys like Jeff Gordon, Mark Teixeira, Curtis Granderson. I mean, this is a thing beyond just every December who gets the Heisman. I think that's really impressive to me.
No, I totally agree. The Heisman Trophy is the most prestigious award in college football, and it was always a highlight every December to see who's going to win it. Now, do I think the person who wins the Heisman is the best player in college football? I don't know, but it goes to the most outstanding, most valuable. I think they put all that together. Now, when it first started, because obviously there was no national TV and there was no internet and anything like that, the Heisman Trophy was only eligible for college football players with colleges located east of the Mississippi, and then it became a coast-to-coast thing as the country shrunk because of communications.
Yeah, and now there's about four finalists a year. They all come up here for a big dinner and whatnot, and it seems like a fun event. And I would love to go there one day. Who knows? We'll see.
I can't believe you haven't already been there.
I know. Anyway, so on that note, it was just something.
Well, who do you think is going to win the Heisman? Because I have a feeling the quarterback of Tennessee is going to win it. Hendon Hooker, the quarterback.
Look at that, right? I mean, that whole volunteer program in 3 weeks has gone national in their notoriety and their noticeability and whatever. I mean, all the social medias users are talking about them. I mean, they're a team. Of course, C.J. Stroud, I'm also keeping an eye on.
And I would say he's also a candidate for sure.
They could have folded against Penn State. They did not. Penn State should have. I thought they could have come away with a victory there, but then Ohio State did what they do best and ran away with it, right? So, and here's the funny thing.
I think Ohio State right now is the best team in the nation. But this week is very, very interesting. Tennessee at Georgia.
Ooh, and that could take down a number one.
Hooker can clinch it. If Tennessee wins at Georgia, Hooker will clinch the Heisman Trophy.
Right, because that would also take down a number one. It would take down Georgia. It would just be a thing, almost like when Georgia would take down Alabama in many ways, right? So we'll have to see there. And then, of course, and they're kind of quiet. I mean, I get my notifications from them. But Michigan, I mean, they're doing things even without their main guy, McNamara. It's really interesting how he's putting these wins together week after week.
Well, I saw the first college football playoff rankings, and I really had no trouble with the three teams that are in there. But Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State. But the fourth team, Clemson, I was surprised. I mean, I know they're undefeated, but they're not Clemson. They're not a vintage Clemson team. I thought Michigan right now would be the fourth school in top four.
They undoubtedly, I mean, they should beat Rutgers this weekend, right? I mean,
oh my God, Rutgers has no quarterback. I mean, Shiano's done a good job of upgrading the talent level to Big Ten talent, but Rutgers has no quarterback. Shiano has to recruit a quarterback. Rutgers should have beaten Minnesota at home. They should have beaten Iowa at home, but they had no quarterback. They can't move the football, and I know that they have some running back injuries now. Michigan's 27-point favorite. They probably will cover. On the road, Michigan's 26.5-point favorite.
Meanwhile, I said this the other day. I was hoping, I know we carry Syracuse, but I was sort of hoping Notre Dame would get at least inching toward bowl eligible. They may not make a bowl this year, but they had a convincing win, a little bit of one anyway, up in Syracuse.
No, they did. That was a good win for Notre Dame, and I think they will make a bowl game. And there's a big game coming up. Look, they play Clemson Saturday night. That's a big game at South Bend, and Notre Dame can beat Clemson, and if they do, Clemson's out of the playoff. That I can tell you. Things will take care of itself. There'll be some upsets along the way. Not upsets. There'll be some wins and losses. There might be an upset, but this Clemson, if Clemson loses on Saturday night, I don't think they can recoup a playoff spot.
And then Alabama. I mean, I'm just looking forward to the Alabama Iron Bowl, right? I mean, that's what we're looking forward to. Much like OSU, Michigan. I don't know. I feel like Alabama still has vulnerabilities, don't they? And Bryce isn't entirely healthy.
They do. They do have, and Alabama has been fortunate. They should have outright lost to Texas. Not could have, should have. They should have lost to Texas. Texas should have won that game. And they could have. They came within one play of losing to Texas A&M, which was not having a good year. And Jimbo Fisher has his own issues, but trying to get that team to where he wants to in the SEC. But Alabama's been pretty lucky. But if Alabama runs the table, they win against LSU Saturday night, and LSU's playing better under Brian Kelly's first year.
Brian Kelly, that name now. I will never respect someone who leaves a team before a big bowl game, a playoff game, actually, by the way, and it just says, no, I'm going to LSU. He bothers me, and every time LSU loses, internally, I take a little pride in that, to be
Well, I think they're going to lose on Saturday night because I think Alabama's still going to beat them, even though I think it's going to be a tough game. But I think Alabama's going to win. But if Alabama runs the table, wins the SEC championship game, what's that going to do to the playoffs?
Oh,
can you keep the SEC champion out? You can't. The SEC is.
You mean if Tennessee wins it, is what you're saying,
right? The best
right?
conference, along with the Big Ten.
You're saying Tennessee happens to pull that off, right? Because that's
Tennessee has. If the Tennessee loses on Saturday, I don't think they make the playoff.
Boy, they would be a shakeup.
Will win the East.
I don't know when the last time they were down there. I don't know when. It's been a long time that Tennessee's been even involved in the NCAA championship.
Well, they went through a lot of coaches. And they had a chance to get Greg Schiano a couple of years ago, and some student body organization didn't want them to sign Schiano because he was a graduate assistant at Penn State during all the turmoil with Jerry Sandusky and the sexual harassment stuff. But one thing that was going to happen. Now a lot of people don't know that. Greg Schiano, who was the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, was going to bring Joe Burrow with him to Tennessee.
The things that could have been, right, Louis? So
absolutely.
One last note, maybe a generic prediction here because, Phillies look great. They had a great Game 3. I just I don't see them wrapping it up anytime soon. I think there's going to still be a longer series, even though they were convincing down in Philly.
Well, that was quite a power show they put on last night, and I agree with you. I don't think the Astros are going to die quickly, but 5 home runs in a World Series game is pretty impressive.
1,000.
And that stadium is crazy. They are, the Philadelphia fans, whether it's Eagles, for the Flyers, for the Sixers, when they get into it. There's few like them. I know sometimes they go a little bit over the line, but they do support their team at home. Christian Javier tonight, a hard-throwing pitcher. Let's see if that changes. Last night you had Lance McCullers, who only throws fastballs 20% of the time. Does that affect the Philly bats? I don't know. Aaron Nola, has had a good postseason. I know there was one game where he got hit hard, but what the Astros need, they got to get Altuve and they got to get Yordan Alvarez to hit.
Hey, Lou, how about this one? 1,000 World Series home runs plus now, obviously, but
Yeah,
1,000. How about that? And you know, it's funny. I was thinking, the first one in November happened to be Derek Jeter in 2001. Here we are, 21 years later, and the first homer, the second homer in November is the series 1,000. It just kind of feels synchronicity. Oh,
yeah, that is.
And the fact that Kevin Long was the Yankee hitting coach, was the Met hitting coach, and the fact that Robbie Thompson has ties to the Yankees as head coach. Oh, and David Robertson, the closer. I mean, all of this is like we at least have some contingents from the Yankees and Mets getting their revenge on the Astros. How I see it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the way things are intertwined. It's crazy in sports, but should be interesting.
It took an 18-inning game. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry.
It's going to pitch tomorrow night. They say he would pitch tonight, but his arm was a little tired. That's a little scary at the stage of the year. Arm fatigue.
You're rooting for who now, though? Like, who are you rooting for ultimately?
I really don't care. I mean, the Phillies are a great story. The Astros did win 106 games over a 162-game season. The Phillies only won 87. That's a huge difference.
But do you root for guys like Syndergaard and Wheeler who did produce for the Mets, and it wasn't really their own choice.
Once you leave the teams I root for, I seldom have allegiance. The only guy I ever rooted for after he left one of my teams is when the Mets made the ignorant, stupid trade on June 15th, 1977, when they let the great Tom Seaver go to Cincinnati.
Oh, right, because you ended up at the 300th game for him as a White Sox,
I did.
right? Yeah.
I was at the 300th game when they beat the White Sox on Philadelphia Day.
Yeah.
And that was quite a game.
And one last thing about ties. It took me to see an 18-inning Mariner game to realize Manny Acta was the third base coach. And the funny thing is, as you know, I threw the first pitch out at Shea, and he was the coach I threw it to. So,
really? I didn't know that.
It's really.
I didn't know he was the coach. He almost became Met manager on one of these Met managerial openings. I forget who eventually got the job.
Well, it wasn't when they flew Randolph out there and fired him, was it?
No, I think it was after that. But he was maybe it was after Jerry Manuel. I'm not sure, but he might have been the runner-up. For one of the Met jobs. He's considered a very good baseball man.
All right, Lou. Well, I love talking to you as always. I love this take, and we got to do this again next week. I was trying to push it off as long as we could to get as much of the World Series in, but Mother Nature said, nah, you should just go after Game 3, because I'm going to rain out Game 3 on Monday and just play it Tuesday.
Oh, it gives us something to talk about when we get together next week. We'll have a World Series champion. We'll have the Tennessee-Georgia game to talk about. We could talk about. We'll see what the Nets saga.
Right.
What's next? We'll see. And
I think the Jets Bills is going to be
hockey.
I just think
a great weekend and week for the Islanders, who turned it around quickly. The Devils have won 7 out of 8. The Rangers won an exciting overtime game last night. So we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, but the Islanders and Devils, you know what they did? They got 2 points against the Avalanche, while the Rangers only got 1. And I was like, the Rangers could have gotten those 2 points against them. But that's why they play the game. All right, Lou, I will talk to you again next week. Again, Jets-Bills are going to be the big one I'm looking to as well. I guess the Bills and Dolphins and also. But I don't know. I just think this could really be a can the Jets compete kind of game.
Well, if the Jets can pull this upset off, it would be the upset of the NFL season.
Yeah.
But one last thing that you brought up the Dolphins, and it has to be mentioned. The Dolphins are going for it. They're looking to go deep into the playoffs. Getting Bradley Chubb was a tremendous move for them. They also got Jeff Wilson, a very good running back, to give them running back depth. Dolphins are going for it. The AFC. I never thought the AFC East was going to be this tough.
And is Tua back? I mean, is he quarterback again, or what's going on there?
Pardon me? Oh, Tua's back, yes.
Yeah, right.
And he had a brilliant game in Detroit on Sunday. They were down 24-7. And he had a brilliant game.
Oh, right. The Lions blew that one. I forget. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, he's not a great long ball thrower, Tua, but he's a beautiful short to medium thrower, and he leads his guys beautifully. He played a great game Sunday, and I always was a Tua fan.
Heisman winner, right? If I'm not mistaken. Did he win the Heisman?
He did not.
He did not. Okay, I thought he might have. I think he was in the running. That's what it was, but...
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he was. I don't think he won the Heisman.
He's another guy,
You got me. You know what? Before we leave, let's take a quick look.
Let's just.
But yeah, I'm very happy about the Islanders. The Islanders turning it around so quickly. They were not being able to score, and now all of a sudden.
He did in 2018. He won the Heisman. Or he was a nominee, I should say.
Okay, yeah. Kyler Murray won in 2018.
Wow. It is kind of interesting, though, how all these guys, we bring them up and they have somehow tied to the Heisman. It's amazing. It's awesome to hear how that works like that. And
Yep.
Just shows the reach, man.
Just before we go, just think how loaded Alabama was in the championship game against Georgia, which they won in overtime. Bama did. They took Jalen Hurts out, Nick Saban did, and put Tua in, and Tua won the championship for him. I mean, how often do you have two quarterbacks of that caliber now starring in the NFL?
Right, and how often is it that a quarterback change gets made like that? I mean, that was almost unprecedented because...
I was shocked when he did it. Shocked.
Right, and then he, he's a rookie, and he came through for Alabama, so it was just
he sure did
something else. All right, sir. Well, we will do this again next week, and we'll keep our eyes on everything sports oriented and where the Nets go from here, and of course where everything else goes from here. Right, so it's ever evolving this beautiful game of sports. So
always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, talk to you, Lou. I'm Alex Garrett. And there's been another Sports Spotlight with Terminello's Take, Lou Terminello.